Is grammar important in your copywriting and producing of assignments for your clients? Hi, this is Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. I think asking about grammar is the wrong question when it comes to completing assignments for clients that convert, generate leads, or otherwise solve the problems a client has. I'm writing an article about this today. I think there are 4 key objectives when you're putting together materials, and grammar and that kind of thing it's important, but it's kind of the last thing you worry about. The first thing you worry about is the audience itself. Are we writing for the right audience? That's important because even before you define what the document is for, you need to know who it is for, because it is the who that will receive the communications message being conveyed through your writing. The next thing you want to worry about is the objective of the document. Okay, grammar is important. I agree. But it's the last thing to worry about. Now, it's usually the first thing people worry about if they are, I don't really want to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. If they don't know anything else about copywriting, then they worry about grammar. I think copywriting has a style of its own that has more to do with purpose of the document and number 3, readability of the document. If the reader has received the document and they read it and they do not understand it, they're not going to do anything. They're not going to take action. If the reader receives a document and they don't have an interest, it doesn't keep their attention, then they're not going to read it and they're not going to respond. There are so many other factors outside of grammar that have nothing to do with the purpose of the document, the readability of the document. Now, again, grammar, you're going to clean that up at the end, but perfect grammar isn't a number 1 priority. The last priority is your timeline, your schedule. Getting the document done, actually getting a good enough document done on time, approved by your client, is more important than the grammar. Because a perfect grammar and wonderful prose, and that can take a lifetime to do. Your writing as a copywriter really is about getting the client some critical path, some minimal viable product that they can test in the marketplace. Because ultimately, the customer is going to be the judge of these things. If you write something in 3rd grade reading level and it's persuasive, it's influential, it's got some grammar mistakes, but not enough to distract from the message, and you put it out in front of an audience and it rocks, it sells, it converts, it does everything it's supposed to do, fixing the grammar is the least of your worries. It might be, instead, you might want to be looking for a better list. And I know sometimes your clients are going to say, poor grammar reflects, I don't even know the grammatically correct way of saying it, but sometimes they'll say the grammar reflects poorly on our company. And they'll talk about the company guidelines and editorial this, and we need to pass it through legal. And legal wants to put their spin on it, and another group wants to put their spin on it. And next thing you know, you have a gobbledygook document that nobody understands, and even when you finally put it in front of that audience, it doesn't work because all these other audiences along the way have distracted you from the main purpose of your writing. Your writing is to convey a message that cultivates, that impels, that conveys the reason to take action right now, the reason that you must do something. And if that document is in perfect English and perfect grammar and it gets the action you're looking for, great. But it could get the action you're looking for without being perfect because you have the right audience match. You have the right purpose of the document is clearly stated. I'm making an offer. That's why I'm writing this sales letter, to make an offer. The document might have other purposes like positioning the expert, might be to prove a point. All of that goes together into that persuasion. Finally, you want to make sure that it's getting done on time, because a letter that's never finished is never going to work. And I see this all the time. Somebody's written a good sales letter. They have a control sales letter. They come to a copywriter and they say, look, I want another sales letter. And okay, they want to beat the control. And then you start looking at the count. So you have the audience. There's 25,000 people in that audience. There's 2 million people in that audience. And you start looking at the count and they have less than a 1% penetration in that audience to that original sales letter. Maybe their measure of control is not statistically accurate. You know, they say, oh, we've had a handful of sales in this letter. Let's see if we can beat it. How many sales? 200 sales. Okay, well, that might not tell us anything in an audience of 2 million. It might tell you something if you have a smaller, more narrow list, but what about let's test some concepts in lead generation before we write another letter? Let's see if we can't put more qualified people in front of the letter you already have. Because to make a letter that works go from work into gangbusters, it may not be practical. It may not be possible. Now, again, narrowing the focus to the audience match, getting a more qualified person in front of that letter, using lead generation to give you a way to follow up on people and bring them back to the table, offering a different product rather than the same product in a new letter. What about a different product in a letter that builds on the first one? What about a second sale, third sale, fourth sale? What about finding a different way to use the leads to get more qualified prospects in your list? All those things, again, have more value than the grammar itself. Now, don't get me wrong. When some dweeb reads my website and says, oh, you've got a spelling error on this page, or you've got a grammar error on this page, and they send that into me, somebody in my office will correct it. But fixing the grammar is a minimum wage type of job. And in fact, it's part of the test about readability. So you finish your letter, you give it to a high school student, you have a high school student read it. If they say, okay, I didn't find any mistakes, then it's done. You're finished. You can do that for minimum wage. So again, the takeaway is, yes, grammar is important. Take care of it as you go, but it's not the number one reason you're writing. You're not a fiction writer. You're not the next Steven Spielberg. You're not the next, you're not the next J.K. Rowling or anything like that. You're just basically persuading people. And with the right message, the right audience, the level of understanding conveyed in the material, all of this together trumps the grammar or the use of punctuation and phraseology and such, so that you get results. You are paid for the hardest part of all of this, which is generating leads and making sales. And that's where your focus should be. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. If you have questions about copywriting or the business of copywriting, visit me at www.adbriefings.co.uk. Ask your questions. I'll answer them on the podcast. I'll answer them in an article or a special report. We even have tutorials for our subscribers. Be sure to visit the website at www.adbriefings.co.uk, where we help copywriters, marketers, and business development professionals use words that sell. Thanks for listening.